The city was suffering from really a three-pronged disaster at the time. The first problem is macroeconomic. It's totally outside of New York City's control. You have stagflation, you have the 1970s oil crisis, both of which send the cost of being a landlord in New York spiraling out of control. The two other prongs, though, the city brought on itself. Throughout the 1950s and 60s, the city had systematically destroyed its own industrial economy using land seizures through eminent domain, bulldozers, zoning laws. New York had wiped out the very lifeblood of the city. More than 500,000 industrial, shipping, manufacturing, and other blue-collar jobs that had fed and clothed the city's residents, particularly newly arrived immigrants and migrants, as it had done since the 1600s. All of these job-creating companies, tax-paying companies, were replaced with highways and high-rise office buildings built with taxpayer money, subsidized housing, some of it for the poor, but actually the vast majority of that subsidized housing for the middle and upper classes. And the idea was that you needed to clear out industry and factories so that all these richly educated office workers, the professional managerial class, as some would say, that they were supposed to replace all these working classes. But that replacement never really came. In the 1970s, the city's office vacancy rates were higher than they'd ever been since the Depression. So this, second piece of this self-inflicted job loss made it far, far harder for landlords to collect rent because the renters were not working. In the 1970s, New York loses 1 million residents. Average incomes fall 35%. People talk about the ravages of offshoring and NAFTA and globalization, in America giving away its industrial might. And those things are very, very real. But those policy decisions, these were not things that actually were kind of made up in the 1990s. These things were actually born in New York City and, in the 1950s, 60s, 70s. And really no place in America has ever been hit harder by anti-industrial policies than New York. It just happened decades earlier than anywhere else. There's a line from Frank Sabatka in season 2 of The Wire, the longshoreman. He says, we used to make shit in this country, build shit. Now all we do is put our hands in the next guy's pocket. New York City really is the start of this shift in America.